Hi friends, Miss Kristi here. Happy Friday. Since today is Friday and we normally make a class snack, again, we're gonna try to do that this week. And we're gonna actually make the granola that we've had in class a couple times. So we've had this in class and then we also did it for our camp out. So all of you have tried it and I think most of you liked it. So hopefully you can try it at home. The first step that we always do, whether you're cooking at home or in class, is wash your hands. So I'm gonna wash my hands quick. As always, we talked about this too a couple weeks ago, is you wanna have hot water and lots of soap. And then we're gonna sing what the ABCs I think we said we would do. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Or maybe you could practice counting to 20 in Spanish. That would be good. Just making sure that they're good and clean before we start cooking. We don't want to spread any germs. Dry them off with a paper towel or a towel. And then we will get started. So I already have my oven preheated, but at home you're gonna wanna preheat your oven to 300. So I've done that already, it's ready to go. And then let me show you what ingredients you're gonna need for this recipe. So you're gonna need some type of oil. So whether it's a vegetable oil, a canola oil, I'm actually gonna use olive oil in mine today, and that's perfectly fine. It doesn't change the taste. You're gonna need syrup or honey. I use syrup in mine. We actually use syrup in the one in our classroom too. So maple syrup, a little bit of salt, a little bit of cinnamon, and then of course the oatmeal, which is the biggest part of our granola. So those are our ingredients, pretty simple. The first thing we're gonna do is I have a liquid measuring cup and that's what we're gonna measure our oil with. So you're gonna do a half a cup of whatever oil that you've chosen to use. So we're gonna measure a half a cup. And two, when you're at home doing this, if you set your measuring cup on the counter and then measure, that gives you a pretty straight line. So you can try that. So a half a cup of oil, you're just gonna dump in there. And then we're gonna do the same thing whether you're using honey or maple syrup. You're gonna do a half a cup of syrup. And if you do the maple syrup, you just wanna make sure that it's real maple syrup. It'll be in a glass jar like this and not the kind that maybe some of you might put on your pancakes. There's a little bit of difference in the flavor. So you'll do a half a cup of syrup. And then we're gonna move on to the salt. Now, our recipe calls for a half a teaspoon of salt. For some reason, my teaspoon, half a teaspoon is missing, so I'm gonna use a fourth of a teaspoon. So if we know our fractions in class, 1/4 plus 1/4 equals a half of a teaspoon. So I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon, which in my kitchen, because I don't have it, I'm gonna do 1/4 of salt plus 1/4 of salt equals a half. Same thing with the cinnamon. You're gonna need a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. So we'll get that in there quick. And like I said, this recipe is super simple. The longest part's gonna be waiting for it to cook in the oven. So now that we have our oil, maple syrup, salt, and cinnamon here, we're just gonna take a whisk in your big bowl that we're using and stir it together. Just want to make sure that salt kind of gets all mixed in there, or else you're going to get pockets of salt and that's not going to taste good. Ooh. It can get a little messy, that's okay. Cooking can be messy. All right, so now that it's all mixed together, we're going to take our oatmeal and we're going to need 3 cups of oatmeal. So just measure it in. Here's 1 cup. Here's 2 cups. And 3 cups. And if you go a little bit over, not a big deal. It's just gonna make a little bit more granola. So just as best as you can get those 3 cups in there, dump it all in. And now, move this out of the way. You can take a wooden spoon, a spatula, anything that you might have, and you're just gonna mix it up really well so that all of the flavors from the oil and the maple syrup, and especially that cinnamon, gets all over your oatmeal. So just mix it, and this is the fun part. Try to hold on to the bowl or else things like this happen. So you wanna hold on to the bowl and mix it all together. And that is pretty much it for preparing it. So I'm just gonna grab our sheet over here, our cookie sheet, and I lined mine with aluminum foil. You can use parchment paper. You don't have to use either. You can just put it right on the pan. It just helps so that it doesn't stick as much as we're trying to get it off of the pan. So you'll just take your spatula, scrape it down onto the pan. Try to get everything in there. All right. And then just kind of take the flat part of your spoon or your spatula and you're just gonna spread it out on your pan to try to get a thin layer. If you have thicker parts in one spot and really thin parts in another, it's gonna cook differently. You might get some burnt pieces and then some pieces that aren't done. So, a nice thin layer. You can kind of see I'm spreading it out. And also, if you like chunks of granola, so it's not like every little piece of oatmeal, if you like the chunkier granola, you really want to push it down. That's going to help it stick together when it cooks in the oven. All right, so that's pretty much it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the oven for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we're going to take it out and we're going to just kind of mix it around so the bottom doesn't burn, and then we put it back in the oven for 10 minutes. And then it's done, and we'll take it out and let it cool and you can see what it looks like. So right now I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna pop it in the oven for 10 minutes. Okay friends, so it's been the first 10 minutes since we put our granola in, so now we're gonna take it out so we can mix it up. Definitely have an adult help you with this part so that nobody gets burned. I've got my oven mitt on to protect my hands. And then we're just gonna bring it over here. Very careful not to touch the pan because the pan is very hot from being in the oven. So we'll just take the same spatula we used before and we're just gonna mix it around so that nothing gets burnt. And again, like I said, if you want the chunkier granola, we're going to push it down once we spread it out. So, spreading it out here. Careful not to touch the pan. And then just push it down. That'll give us the chunky granola that a lot of us like to have in our yogurt. All right, so we've mixed it up. I'm gonna put it back in the oven for 10 minutes. That's the last part, and then we take it out and let it cool. So back in the oven it goes. And we wait. Okay friends, so at this point we have put it in for 10 minutes, take it out, mixed it up and put it back in for 10 minutes. So now I've just taken it out and it's cooled for a few minutes on the counter. Just want to make sure that it's not hot to touch when we pick up the pan. So I have it out here. You can take your spatula again and you're just going to kind of scrape it up a little bit to get it broken up from the pan. And like I said earlier, if you have parchment paper, it's going to be the easiest. Tin foil is going to help. If it's straight on the pan, it might stick a little bit and then you just kind of have to work with it. So we're just going to get it up off the pan. And then we will grab a container, anything that has a top. You can ask your mom or dad or whoever you might be working with the best thing to put it in. And then you can probably store it in your pantry or in your cupboard for a few days, up to a week I would say. We've had granola for probably about a week and it tastes great, so however long you want to store it. So you kind of get it up off the pan. And then, this is my container I'm going to put it in today. And then you just have to get it in there. However the best way you see possible. I'm going to just try to pick mine up here and dump it in. If it goes everywhere, that's okay. Cooking can be messy. All right. Get all the chunks off here. I'll work on scraping the rest of those off later. And then you put your top on, and you're done. You can have this with, what did we have it with? Yogurt in class. You can have it on its own. I like to put blueberries in mine and some chocolate chips sometimes to make it a little bit sweeter. But I hope you try this at home with mom or dad or an adult in your house. If you want to, you can leave me a little comment and let me know if you tried it, if you liked it. And then hopefully we'll be back next Friday and we'll make something else together. All right, friends, have a fabulous weekend. I miss you, and hope to see you soon. Bye.